Show me right from wrong. Give me light, make me strong. I know the road is long. Make me strong.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Brothers and sisters, assalamu alaikum. Ladies and gentlemen, good night and welcome to Doctor in the House. I am Dr.Solaiman Juman and I'm your host tonight on Doctor in the House, the show that brings you the news, views and interviews dealing with local and international medical issues. Well, in my commentary section, I start with the budget debate. Has anything really useful come out of the budget debate as yet? I'm not really sure. But I must say, if you want to say anything about the budget, it was really equitable. That is, everybody's angry about it. But let's see how it works. Let's see how the debate ends up, what useful thing comes out of it. Congratulations to the First Peoples Day. They were the first people in the Caribbean, and it's nice to have them acknowledged. On another local issue, I saw Green Days by the River, a movie that was made out of the Michael Anthony book. I thought it was a pretty good movie, nice scenery, nice videotaping. It was a nice coming-of-age story. So I would recommend people to go and take a look at it. Well, we see that recently something's happening at the St. Augustine campus of the University of the West Indies. There's an increase in the crime. And I see the security is going to be very strict now in allowing people in and out of the campus. But I suppose that just reflects what's happening in Trinidad and Tobago. Congratulations to the Trinidad and Tobago football team for knocking USA out of the World Cup. Some people say it's a vindication, that it's revenge from 1989. It happens. Sorry for USA, but sorry for Trinidad because we didn't reach anywhere. Let's hope that the young team that played in that match, they can build. But unfortunately, somehow we have that uncanny knack of shooting ourselves in the foot, literally. So maybe we hope that they can build on that. Dr. Fuad Khan, the former Minister of Health, made a very interesting suggestion, saying that maybe we should name the waterfront after Manning. Now, if we're going to name it after anyone, I think it has to be former Prime Minister Patrick Manning, because that was his vision, and he commissioned Calder Hart to get it going. There was a lot of controversy about it, but it looks good. It's serving a valuable function. So as I said, if it's going to be named after one, I think it should be named after former Prime Minister Patrick Manning. All right, so let's move on now to the medical news. Well, I don't know if you all are aware, but right now at the Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex, a group from Maryland in the United States, they are doing lots of joint replacements. That's knee replacement, hip replacements. From what I heard, there must be about 50 or so of those individuals from Maryland who's down here. They're operating throughout the day. And in fact, so the good thing is that they've come here, they have brought the implants, which are very expensive, and a lot of Trinidadians and Tobagonians are benefiting from it. If there's a negative, if you want to say, is that all other theater lists have been canceled for this week. It's only replacements going on. Well, let's hope by next week we can get back to normal functioning. Again, the issue of what's happening about the Ministry of Health going along the implant way is that the Minister of Health said that he has saved over $200 million in over expenditure by looking at groups who have been bringing in different things, having massive markups. Again, this is something that I think should be looked at across the board, not only the Ministry of Health. That yes, we think that businessmen must make money, but it must be reasonable profit. So I hope that the money that the Minister of Health has saved has gone into having some positive effect on the health ministry. In Madagascar, in Africa, there's something called the plague. For those of you who are not into history, about in the 1300s, there was something called the bubonic plague in Europe, which killed millions and millions of people. It was spread by a mite, and lots of people were killed. So this plague that's happening in Madagascar, an island of Africa, is called the pneumonic plague. It's affecting the lungs, and over 561 cases, with many of them dead. And let's hope the public health things are done to keep it limited and eradicate the disease. A very interesting story that came out of the shooting in Las Vegas. As some of you may know, when you have your first aid, if somebody gets a very bad cut, say, on their arm, and they're bleeding a lot and their artery is involved, you can put a tourniquet on. Now, what a tourniquet does, and that's something you need to put very tightly, the tourniquet pressure has to be very high to block the blood vessel. No, so that's the basic tourniquet knowledge. However, over the past few years, what they kind of realized that if the tourniquet is put on for too long, by the time the patient's limb, whether it be hand, whether it be lower limb, by the time they get to the hospital, which may be hours, you have compressed the blood vessel for so long that the limb has died, which led to a lot of amputations. So tourniquet will kind of, it needs to be used judiciously. It needs to be released every so often. But what happened in the Las Vegas shootings is that some wise first aid individuals applied tourniquets to some of the patients, and they saved their lives. So one of the thinking is, well, at least you, even if, heaven forbid, you have to lose your limb, at least your life is safe. So it's a little bit of an issue of balancing how long you keep the tourniquet on. But yes, so tourniquets can be useful, but it must be used judiciously. World Mental Health Day actually went by a couple of weeks ago, and the theme this year was health in the workplace. And what is looked at is the level of psychological and emotional wellness in your work. And as you all are fully aware, that work can be very stressful. Your boss is on top of you, you have deadlines, you want to make sure you're not fired. And all of these things can have a serious toll on you. It can lead to depression, anxiety. And guess what? That then leads to problems at home. Because when you go home, if you have issues at home in terms of the washing machine breaking down and things like that, the stresses can build up. So workplace indeed can be a very, very stressful place. And in something called the social determinants of health, it has been shown quite clearly that the workplace that you are in can either help your mental health or it can worsen your mental health. So there are lots of people out there who are working in toxic environments that is having a feedback on the rest of their health, not only the mental health. So to you out there, just be aware that mental health is a massive problem throughout the world, and it leads to a lot of other morbidity and mortality through suicides and things like that. I also noticed that today was World Food Day. And that again is something of, anytime I hear about it, a little bit of vexatious, in that when you go to some restaurants, and especially American-style restaurants, the portions are absolutely humongous. And when myself and my wife goes, we order one meal for two of us because the meals are so big. They are so big. Um, so I think one simple way, well, I mean, in my naive self, one simple way of immediately doubling the food or doubling the number of people that can be fed by any kind of food right now is just each one of us eating half of what we usually eat. Because it's, in first world countries, in restaurants and stuff, you wonder what happens to all the food that is left back. And then you hear about millions of people dying in Africa and in Asia. I saw an article this morning, a news article, where they showed that the Rohingya in Bangladesh, which is about 500 to 600 of them, they have problems with food because they are refugees, as we all know. So World Food Day, it's an interesting day for us to reflect on what's happening with the food and food security. If you want to extend that issue of food security in Trinidad, how much of our food do we import and how much do we actually grow here? Do we have food security? If and when our foreign exchange dries up, and we cannot order pears and apples, how are we going to feed ourselves? So I think each one of us needs to reflect very, very deeply on what food means to us and how we can save food and not waste it. And how can we help our fellow man, wherever they may be, whether it be in Dominica, Puerto Rico, how can we help them so that everyone gets adequate food to maintain their good health? We'll take a short break and I'll be back with you in a little while.
High blood pressure is as dangerous as an overpumped balloon. Measuring your blood pressure every day can save you from risk of high blood pressure. MicroLife fully automatic upper arm blood pressure monitor with stroke risk detection. MicroLife AFib screens for atrial fibrillation while taking your blood pressure. High blood pressure and atrial fibrillation are both considered controllable risk factors for stroke. If AFib is present during blood pressure measurement, the AFib icon is displayed flashing at the end of the triple measurement. Once 3 measurements are complete, the measurement data are shown on the display. MicroLife, a partner for people, for life.
For the everyday lowest prices on all grocery items, trust Low Cost Supermarket for the widest variety of quality products at low prices. Freshly picked fruits and vegetables, healthy products for your well-being, high-quality meat cuts, and a warm and friendly service. Low Cost Supermarket, Southern Main Road, Cunupia.
Keep refreshed with Oasis Premium Purified Water. Now available in more thirst-quenching options. 330 ml, 600 ml, 1.5 liter, and 5 liters. Choose the size that fits you best. Grab one today.
Sheikh Leisha Limited, the leading manufacturers of vermicelli, split peas powder, and grease-proof paper. We also manufacture a variety of paper and plastic bags. We have bags for French fries, sandwiches, popcorn, supermarkets, stores, and much more. Whatever your needs, trust Sheikh Leisha Limited for quality products. Sheikh Leisha Limited, Warrenville, Cunupia, telephone 665-3336. Oh.
I'm Dr. Solaiman Juman, and this is Doctor in the House. A couple of announcements. On October 29th, there's going to be a free medical clinic at the Baraka grounds in Chaguanas. It's going to be held on the 29th of October. There's going to be dentistry, dermatology, optometry, gynecology, diet, nutrition, and other services to be provided. So please make that date. It's 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. So it's going to be a free health checkup for the public. So you're going to get blood pressure, sugar testing, cholesterol screening, and there might even be a facility for free pap smear testing. And I cannot overemphasize that pap smear testing in women in the appropriate age group, because if you do pick up abnormal pap smears and cervical cancer is detected, it can be cured if it is caught early. And also another announcement, so you can tell your friends and relatives overseas, Doctor in the House is live on YouTube. Search IBN Master, and I believe they not only have it live, but they have the back issues of Doctor in the House. So look out for that. All right, so we come now to the, the lighter side of Doctor in the House, where I try to make you smile a little. So one day this chap came home, and the wife was very upset, So husband asked her, why are you, what's happening? She said, well, the maid quit her job, she fired, she said she's leaving. So the husband said he doesn't understand, up to the day before, she was quite happy. And the wife said, well, you know why she left? She left because you called her on the phone and you spoke in a very insulting, abusive, aggressive manner. And she didn't think that you should speak to her like that. The husband said, oops, I thought I was talking to you. So husbands out there, be careful about your behavior. So this gentleman now, he went off to somewhere, and he was caught in the jungle. And he was caught by a group of cannibals. So the cannibals caught him, and they're putting him in the pot, and he's just starting to boil. And he heard one of the cannibals talking, and the cannibal was speaking with a very posh accent. So he called the cannibal and said, how you speaking English so fluently? The cannibal said, well, I went to Harvard, But the man said, but how you went to Harvard and you're still eating people? The cannibal said, well, I've learned a few things. I now use a knife and fork. So, no knowledge is ever wasted, as they say. So, there's always these little Johnny jokes. So little Johnny ran, you see him running. He ran into a gas station. And he asked for a container with 5 gallons of gas. So the owner said, what? So Johnny, what the car's broken down? What's happened? Why you want 5 gallons of gas? Little Johnny said, the school is on fire. Think about it. We'll take a short break, and I'll be back with you in a little while.
High blood pressure is as dangerous as an overpumped balloon. Measuring your blood pressure every day can save you from risk of high blood pressure. MicroLife fully automatic upper arm blood pressure monitor with stroke risk detection. MicroLife AFib screens for atrial fibrillation while taking your blood pressure. High blood pressure and atrial fibrillation are both considered controllable risk factors for stroke. If AFib is present during blood pressure measurement, the AFib icon is displayed flashing at the end of the triple measurement. Once 3 measurements are complete, the measurement data are shown on the display. MicroLife, a partner for people, for life.
I'm a cool kid, you're a cool kid, we are cool kids, are you a cool kid? Every day I want it, I need to drink lots of it, full of fruit, vitamin C, give me me lots of it.
My imagination is growing and so am I. I'm getting
So
bigger.
give me fruit of cool kids, it's so juicy.
So I could touch the sky. Become a cool kid now by visiting www.fruitycoolkids.com.
At times I feel that the sun is hidden by a hazy sky.
A God's gift brought straight from the farm to your plate. Jaza Rice, with its premium range of basmati rice, helping you prepare your perfect, mouth-watering dishes just as you planned. Jaza Rice, blessings in each plate.
Every now and then we need.
This is a Pakistani product, and all over the world, at least try it once. And if it's good, please let us know. We need your encouragement.
Just a little time to breathe.
Milkana butter, an experience for your taste buds. Smooth, flavor-filled, rich, velvety butter. Milkana butter for cakes, pastries, pies, or just place it in any of your favorite dishes and add that rich buttery taste to all your meals. Why choose another? Look for the butter with flavor, the butter with the creamy richness in taste. Milkana butter. Distributed by N.M. Ghani, 2003 Limited, number 1, Industrial Lane, Chamflair.
Welcome back to Doctor in the House. I'm Dr.Solaiman Juman, and I'm very proud today that we have a very good friend of mine, Dr. Kenneth Charles, prominent hematologist in Trinidad and Tobago, as my guest. Kenneth, welcome to Doctor in the House.
Thank you, Sally.
He's a kind of wannabe golfer. He's trying, but it's good for him to at least walk. So Kenneth, you're a South boy.
I am.
From my alma mater, Presentation College.
That's right.
So I'd love to ask this question to all of my guests.
Yes.
Why did you do medicine?
Well, you know, it was in our day, Sally, when one made the grade, it was either medicine, law, or engineering. It was not the sort of career advice that's available now. And it was not a choice I ever regretted. But I decided on medicine because I did make the grade, and I was not daring enough to leave home completely.
So you went up to Jamaica.
Yes.
So when did you decide that you wanted to make a career in hematology?
It was quite interesting as early as second year.
Really, why?
It was, a book appealed to me. It was the physiology book
Uh-huh.
and the hematology section of it.
Oh, you mean part that I skipped over?
Yeah. That fascinated me.
Really, what you like, the intricacies of how blood was created and that kind of
Yes, and the description of the bone marrow and the blood and
Really?
the
So
was
as early as
fascinating
that
me. As early as that, I knew.
So where did you do your postgraduate training in hematology?
The hematology part of it I did in Sheffield in North England.
Right, and you actually worked for quite a while in England.
Yes.
So the next big question, why did you come back to Trinidad?
The main reason was, to be honest, I never left with any plan of coming back, given the circumstances under which I left. And, but having got there, I felt the need to, at some point, demonstrate that I had the option and was prepared to use it to return home, that I wasn't, I didn't go abroad to seek refuge.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to come home, and I knew there's a great need here as well.
Absolutely.
So I decided to exercise the option, and demonstrably so.
So now you are associated with the University of the West Indies, so you're teaching
I am.
medical students
I
and
am, yes.
hopefully the new generations of hematologists.
Yes.
So, just to keep it simple, can you please tell our viewers what is hematology?
Hematology is the study of the normal and the diseases of the blood and bone marrow and related tissues like the lymph nodes and the liver and so on, all of which either produce or destroy blood or blood cells and blood proteins.
Well, another inane question, what is blood?
Blood is a combination of some cells made in the bone marrow. These are white cells which fight infections, red cells which convey energy, and platelets which prevent bleeding. So 3 types of cells mostly, and they all flow in a fluid called plasma.
A nice little simple question. How much blood do each person average contains?
It's about 5 liters.
Okay.
And it's in constant circulation, so it's recycling all the time.
I think to the normal person, the lay person, that, you know, blood isn't sexy. You know, it's the only time you see it is when somebody's injured.
Yes.
But blood is essential to our life.
It's the most essential thing. It's critical.
You mean more essential than the air, nose, and throat?
Just barely by your nose.
In terms of why do we need it?
Well, it's very important to sustain the life of every organ, every tissue. It's very potent, carries very rich religious connotations, carries majestic powers, and always has. It's mysterious.
Majestic powers.
It does.
That's strong words, you know.
It does, because when the whole concept of blood first came about and its transfusion, it was as early as the days of the Greeks and Romans, when the gladiators drank the blood of their victims to get their energy.
I suppose it's symbolic as well.
As symbolic, yes.
I thought just came to me, anthropologically,
yes,
every living organism has some kind of fluid that goes through their system like blood?
Yes.
And it performs similar
functions. Yes.
All right, interesting.
As a matter of fact, the students in the veterinary school, they do the first year of training as the medical students.
Okay.
Because the basic sciences are generally the same in animals.
All right,
including hematology.
so let's talk a little bit about, you spoke about the diseases of blood. What are the common, give me a few common diseases of blood.
The most common disease of the blood is a deficiency. And it's iron deficiency, which causes anemia. And anemia is really a reduction in what is called the blood count, or the hemoglobin. And hemoglobin, a big part of the hemoglobin structure is iron. And therefore, if there's not enough iron in the body, there's not enough substance to make hemoglobin. So the hemoglobin concentration falls, and that it reduces the body's capacity to transport oxygen around. It causes tiredness and general feelings of unwellness.
So that's iron deficiency anemia.
Iron deficiency anemia.
But there are other types of anemias.
There are. There are anemias that could be caused by failure of the bone marrow to make red cells. And this could be caused by inherited problems. Then there also are some inherited problems that could cause the body to break red cells down before they reach their usual age. And classically, like in our populations, these are like thalassemia, which is an inherited blood disorder, and sickle cell disease, which is another inherited blood disorder. So therefore, people are born with a problem in making red cells, causing the red cells to be destroyed very early, and subsequent anemia, which is lifelong.
Well, so as you said about the commonest form of anemia, the heat, iron deficiency.
Yes.
How do you make go about making the diagnosis?
Usually, it's typically, I'd say most cases are young women who lose an excessive amount of blood in their menstrual periods. And some people, the abnormalities picked up what we call incidentally because they don't feel any different because it occurs. It's a gradual process over years sometimes. And people don't realize that their energy is being sapped away. So they function normally, and then something happens and everything snaps. And they turn up to hospital or they have a blood test for some other reason. It is found that the hemoglobin level could be very low and the red cells are very small. These are the usual clues looking at the machine printout of the blood count.
So how would you would confirm that on your blood tests and stuff like that?
Yes.
And how is it managed?
All right. Before we go to that, Solly, if I may, it's important that people can recognize the signs. And generally feeling unwell. Sometimes the mouth feels sore, there's cracking of the lips, there's hair loss. And very frequently it occurs in a situation where women have very heavy periods and pass large clots and bleed for an excessive length of time.
There's an interesting symptom I found out incidentally a few years ago. And maybe you can verify this if this is scientific. When you have iron deficiency anemia, do you eat ice a lot?
Yes, it's quite classical. I think the majority of women with it who have ended up managing, they eat a lot of ice.
Is it because of the dry mouth and stuff? Or?
Yeah, because iron is required to build every cell in the body, and because the cells of the lining of the mouth all the way down to the gut is destroyed because of deficiency, the people develop abnormal cravings. And ice is one. I've heard of sand.
Really?
Soap powder. The works.
Oh,
people have abnormal taste, but ice is the most common one.
All right, so those are the kind of symptoms they will be having. And then you do the blood test, it confirms it.
Yes.
What's the management at that point?
Yes, the management is one, well, usually they both happen at the same time, but the more important part of the management is addressing the underlying cause of the iron deficiency.
So you deal with the bleeding?
Yes. And very, very importantly, Solly, if I may say, it's important to find out what the cause is, because it may not be heavy periods. And if iron deficiency anemia occurs in a woman who's not of menstruating age or in a man, one has to assume that the person is losing blood from the gut. And that could be anything from an ulcer to gastritis to a malignancy in the gut.
So they will need gastroscopy, colonoscopy.
Yes, it's
very. So that's a very important point to the viewers out there.
And if I may say, Solly, for that reason, if sometimes it's a tendency to just give them some iron and not investigate the reason why. And it could be preventing proper investigation. And sometimes you find that these people turn up some time later with cancer that has spread.
So the patients and the physicians need to be aware.
Yes, that you don't just give them iron. Anemia requires investigation, even to say it's nothing serious.
So I suppose
most times it's not.
So once you've excluded anything serious and you've gone through the steps, then you can start looking at supplements.
Yes.
So one of the biggest problems that people complain about iron is constipation.
Yes, but I tell you something, Solly, I've heard that, and I with all my patients, I prescribe them the least expensive iron preparation. I don't want to say the cheapest because it's the most effective.
Mm-hmm.
And it's some little red tablets called ferrous sulfate. And they cost about 5 or 10 cents for one.
Mm-hmm.
And they do cause side effects, and the reason why they cause side effects is because they release at the point where iron is absorbed the best. So the side effects are manifestation of good absorption. And where they do cause constipation, I advise patients beforehand, these may constipate you. But what you could do is to eat some ripe bananas or some grapes, and it works in most cases.
Okay. So
And,
what about this story about if you're anemic in Trinidad, you eat bhaji and red and liver and stuff?
Well, I think it's a good idea. I think most people eat those anyway.
No,
So
most people?
Yeah.
I don't think
Well,
so.
I think, no, I think most people could have enough dietary iron. So it's really, diet is really a cause of anemia. So one should never assume so. Huh?
All right, yeah.
Say somebody has an adult has iron deficiency anemia, one doesn't assume it's dietary.
All right.
And,
So I know hematology is wide. It goes across many fields.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the big issues that we have in Trinidad right now is the issue of the blood bank transfusion. What's the state of the blood bank and transfusion in Trinidad right now?
Well, as you know, I used to be director of the transfusion service. And I would say the general workings of the system have not changed, although I think there's some effort to address them now. But all of the blood collection in the country, 90% of it comes from people who donate blood only when they're in need.
So that's what percentage you said? 90?
It's the last Pan American Health Organization statistics I saw said about 82%, which is the vast majority.
So that is like our surgeons, or any surgeon,
Yeah.
or patient who is very ill.
Yes.
It would be indicated to the relatives that they need to go to the blood bank, get 2 chits or 3 chits, and then their relative or whoever is now entitled to that blood. That's the system that occurs now in the majority, is it?
Yes.
Now, I know from listening to you and other people that there are more modern ways of how the transfusion service and blood bank should be looked at.
Yes.
Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, we have spent an inordinate amount of time and effort on this, and will continue to, in the national interest and in the interest of the society and the people. It's not the safest method of collecting blood from a society. It has many implications because it causes blood shortages, because blood is only collected to deal with emergencies, and there's never a resting supply that is there for whoever needs it. And this is the basis of healthcare systems in all developing countries. And you will find that should you, heaven forbid, require a blood transfusion of no matter how many units in a developed country, you will never be called upon to find your own blood donors. And that is because over the years, those societies have been conditioned to just donate blood for the public good. And they continue to do it.
So
And it
in
goes
first
way
world
back.
countries,
Yes.
there's a culture
Yes.
of people giving blood.
Just giving it.
Just giving.
Yes.
Now, so as you said, it's only about 10% of that happens in Trinidad.
And it's not even done like that, the 10%, because the other, outside of the 82%, unfortunately, there are people who donate blood for the assurance that they will get the blood back if they need it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a refinement of the other method.
So it's not altruistic.
No.
So maybe, I mean, from you've done vast reading on this, how did this culture of the population starting to understand that they need to be giving blood into the system. Is there any mechanism that was used in other countries that we could look at?
In the developed countries, it started, well, in England where it all started, it started with one person because they started off in the early 1900s collecting blood just as we do. But then one person, his name was Percy Lane Oliver, decided this was not good enough, it's not efficient. And he started amassing a panel of blood donors. He would keep their numbers, and he would have them go to any hospital where blood was needed. In those days, the blood was transferred directly from the donor to the recipient, and he would send a volunteer to the area of need. And these panels grew in England, then they crossed the Atlantic and spread to Canada and America. And those systems developed from then.
Right.
And in that becoming practice, then when the world wars happened, these techniques were refined, so it was done en masse, in bulk. And during the world wars, many of the developing countries exchanged ideas and concepts. So the whole, community blood donation was very big in America and Canada to supply blood for the English allies. And therefore it became the societal norm in those days.
So that, I think, might have been a big impetus.
Yes.
That they saw it in the bigger picture,
Yes.
that these troops were dying for them.
Yes.
And then maybe after the war, that kind of just continued.
Yes. So the whole concept of giving blood for country and for others, that's when it really, those really fanned the flames of that kind of social behavior.
Okay,
But mysteriously, that culture was never transferred to the colonies.
So is there anywhere in the Caribbean that first world picture occurs?
Yes, that first world blood donation behavior occurs in Curacao and in Aruba and in Suriname, all of which were Dutch colonies.
Interesting.
And
so how did that happen?
Well, the Dutch, during the Second World War, they learned the British blood donation methods and found them to be desirable and adopted them and transferred them to their colonies in the West Indies. So there was transfer.
So really,
and once transferred.
So it wasn't transferred to the British colonies?
No.
What about the French colonies? What system they use?
The French, there was some transfer to the French colonies as well, in that even Haiti and Guadeloupe and Martinique, their blood donation systems are closer to the European systems.
Yeah. So I mean, this is really, I mean, an interesting statement you said there. The CHIT system leads to shortages.
Yes.
Explain a little bit more about that.
If, for example, and it's let's say there are 5 units of blood here, but all 5 are for Dr.Solaiman Juman.
Heaven forbid.
Because he has 5 relatives, yes?
Mm-hmm.
But then Kenneth Charles ends up in need. But the blood is already there reserved and labeled for Dr.Solaiman Juman.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, even though there's blood physically present, it is not available.
All right, for anyone else.
Yes, and in addition, the real part of it, if your relatives are expecting to be called upon at any time to donate blood in an emergency for you, they will not go and do it voluntarily 3 times a year, because having donated, one can't do so for a fixed period after donation. So they'll not be eligible to donate as replacement.
So where on the
So it prevents frequent blood donation.
So whereas on the voluntary side, if you have 5 units there, anyone in the population can have it.
If it is truly voluntary, nobody has it. It belongs to the community.
Right, so whoever is in need of it
Yes.
will get it.
Yes.
As opposed to if 5 units have been donated for one person.
Yes. Yes.
Interesting.
And it causes a lot of expiry of blood as well. Because you could imagine, like, if it's, let's say, a unit of blood, let's say, lasts 28 days, and somebody donates it today for Solaiman, and Solaiman's procedure is not due for 20 days, so it's kept for at least those 20 days, and then it's not needed, then two things happen. Either it goes back into the circulation, it costs a lot of money to prepare it in the first place, it's very costly, and then it's good for only 8 days after that. So a lot of the shelf life has gone.
That's it. So I think that's another thing that the population
wastage.
needs to understand, that once the blood is taken out from you, it's only 28 days it can survive. Interesting. I think a lot of our people who are looking at the show has had experience with donating blood, going to chits for family, relatives, friends, would have had some experience in it. And it's good, Dr. Charles, to clear up some of the issues. What we'll do, we'll take a short break. When we come back, we're going to open up the lines. We're going to continue our chat with Dr. Charles. And if you have any questions to deal with hematology, any blood issues, feel free to call in. See you in a little while.
Ah, remember the good old days when we had roti with rich, creamy butter? Mmm. Eh? Hey, give me a roti. Greenfields butter, available nationwide.
Sheikh Leisha Limited, the leading manufacturers of vermicelli, split peas, powder, and grease-proof paper. We also manufacture a variety of paper and plastic bags. We have bags for French fries, sandwiches, popcorn, supermarkets, stores, and much more. Whatever your needs, trust Sheikh Leisha Limited for quality products. Sheikh Leisha Limited, Warrenville, Cunupia, telephone 665-3336.
Oh.
Keep refreshed with Oasis Premium Purified Water. Now available in more thirst-quenching options. 330 ml, 600 ml, 1.5 liter, and 5 liters. Choose the size that fits you best. Grab one today.
This is Doctor in the House, and I'm Dr.Solaiman Juman. Interviewing Dr. Kenneth Charles, prominent hematologist. But before we continue our chat with him, a reminder of the medical clinic that's going to be held on October 29th at the Baraka Foundation, at the Baraka grounds in Chaguanas. The services to be included are dentistry, dermatology, mental counseling, optometry, gynecology, and much, much more. You're going to have blood pressure testing, sugar testing, cholesterol screening, and even pap smears are going to be available. So please avail yourselves of this clinic. It's going to be very, very nice, and you all know where the Baraka grounds are. So what we're going to do now, we're going to turn on, open the lines for calls from you all. Now remember, when you're patched into the station, please put your television on mute and talk to us over the telephone. So Dr. Kenneth Charles is here to deal with any hematological or blood problems that you may want to discuss. So the lines are now open. So Kenneth, so a lot of things have been going on to kind of stimulate the population to looking at voluntary blood donation in Trinidad and Tobago. What kind of things been happening?
Well, at the university and among the, starting with the medical students and some volunteer groups and charity groups related to them, we began a truly voluntary and non-remunerated blood donation program there in 2015, and it's affiliated with the North Central Regional Health Authority. So every 3 months we have an exercise at the Mount Hope Blood Bank, where persons donate by appointment for nothing in return. Persons come in, donate, and leave smiling and happy that they've saved 2 or 3 lives.
So just because they want to help a fellow man?
Just charity, purely charity, no other reason. And because we're able to do that by appointment, it's a very fluid process. So we could collect a lot of blood in one day. As a matter of fact, on July 8th, we collected 110 units in one day.
That's great.
And that's because it's so fluid. It's by appointment. There's no waiting or...
All right, we have Santa Cruz on the line. Hello, Santa Cruz.
Good night, doctor.
Good night.
It is so nice to see you again. I have been looking at the program, but I haven't seen you for a while on the show.
Yeah, well, I was away, but I'm back now, so...
Right. I want to personally thank you for the surgery that you did on my daughter, on her thyroid.
Okay.
And she healed so nicely, and she's back to herself again. You are so blessed, doctor. You are so blessed.
Thank
and
you
I want to ask where is the
Dr.
other
Charles? Dr. Charles.
offices? Because I'm diabetic and I think I need to see that doctor. Thank you so much. Have a blessed night. Bye-bye.
All right, thanks. Well, if you call the station after the show, we'll leave that information with the administrator outside. We have Paula Spain on the phone. Hi, good night.
Yes, good night, doctor.
Hi, good night.
Thank you so much for this topic. Now, I am 71 years old. I don't have any kind of sickness, diabetes, hypertension, or so. But I find when I get up in the morning, even though I am well rested after breakfast, I feel tired.
You feel tired? So even when you get up in the morning?
Yes.
And you get how many hours sleep?
Well, I rest like 6 or 7 hours, and I have breakfast. I just feel to go back and sleep.
And for the rest of the day, you're feeling tired?
No. Only for a certain period. I don't know if it's age.
All right, well...
blood deficiency with the iron. So
all right. Well, interesting. I'll bounce it off Dr. Charles and see what he says.
Yeah, I'm 71 years old. Okay?
All right. Thanks very much for calling. She's 71. She feels tired in the morning. If you have anemia, you would feel tired throughout the day.
Well, it will vary. This is general tiredness, but if something that creeps up, so you'll be feeling well, and then suddenly something, when it gets past a certain level, you start feeling different. So I would get it checked out either way.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like a very healthy 71-year-old.
Yeah, it sounds very vibrant. And also from an ENT point of view, sometimes if you're a snorer, and you're blocking off your oxygen levels in the night, sometimes you'd feel sleepy during the day. But to that young lady who just called, if you picked up something different that is happening in your life, go to your doctor and let him investigate it. He will do a full blood count to see if you may be anemic and do some further testing. But I would strongly recommend you talk to your GP. All right, good night. We have Lapai on air.
Yes, good night, Dr. Juman and your guest, Dr. Charles.
Good night.
Good night, sir.
Okay, I am 60 years old. What I want to find out, I used to be a regular blood donor, but I noticed, well, I'm asking, is there an age limit to giving blood? And if that being the case, what is the reason or what for that situation?
That is
why
a very good...
somebody at an advanced age cannot give blood? That is my question.
Thank you very much. I think that's a very good question. Dr. Charles?
Yes. Thank you, and thanks for donating blood, sir. I hope it was voluntary. The age limit is based on changes that occur in human beings as you all age, that the heart works less well, and therefore people become less able to withstand the sudden shock of having a pint of blood removed. And for that reason, because the blood vessels become hardened and the heart beats less well, it is difficult to estimate who has coped well with the aging process. So there was a defined age limit, a safety level.
So that's one exclusion.
Yes.
Are there any other exclusions that if you have certain things you cannot give blood?
Yeah, there are very few. There are very few, and I want to make that point as well. There are very few reasons for not being eligible to donate blood. And the three important ones I'd like to share with you. If one is hypertensive, meaning one is on treatment for high blood pressure, one can donate blood, providing one's blood pressure is normal on the day. So it does not say if you're hypertensive, you cannot give blood.
Okay.
If one is diabetic, one could donate blood if one is controlled with tablets. It's different if one is using insulin or if one has complications of diabetes. But hypertension, diabetes do not preclude blood donation. Third, if one has a tattoo, and that is very fashionable nowadays, it does not mean that one cannot donate blood. One can donate blood a year after the last tattoo. I know the young people don't give a chance these days. They're having them in rapid succession.
So why do you wait a year after the tattoo?
It's because one has to assume in some places where the tattooing process is not so hygienic, people exchange needles, so it's possible to transmit viruses like HIV, hepatitis B, hepatitis C through the needles.
Right,
and whereas the blood is tested after donation, it takes up to a year for the test to become positive.
So all of those things are not absolute constraints, it's relative.
Yeah.
All right, we have San Fernando on the line. Hi, good evening, San Fernando.
Hi, good night, doctors.
Hi.
I am glad for this topic tonight because I'm anemic and I do have fibroids as well, for them to go for surgery.
Right.
So I use Orofol for the tablet, but I heard the doctor say about ferrous sulfate. But I use this tablet called Orofol. And I would like to know what vegetable foods I could use to compensate for that as well, besides the tablet.
So are your periods heavy?
It used to be, but not anymore.
All right, and you're still anemic?
Yes, still.
How old are you?
40.
Okay. All right, so Dr. Charles?
Yes, thank you for your question, ma'am. Two things. Once the blood is affected, it means that the entire body otherwise is totally depleted of iron. So your body has no iron stores, and then you become iron deficient. So correcting the problem takes about 6 months, and that is after the cause is corrected. And The tablet you asked about,
or a Flux, is it, or something like that?
Yeah, I don't
must be
want to
some
call
brand
trade
name
names.
of the iron,
It is, yeah. But to repeat, I use only ferrous sulfate because it is most effective, and it releases the iron where it's supposed to be released.
So,
and it's very inexpensive.
So I know there are a lot of big brand names in terms of iron supplements, but the experts use the cheap ferrous sulfate, and it works. All right, we have Las Lomas on the line. Hello, good evening.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Doc, if one is hypertensive, but their blood pressure is under control because of medication, can one still donate blood?
Yes, once it's under control.
Right. In spite of being on medication for
Yes.
more than 20 years?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
If you're otherwise well, sir.
Yeah.
But your blood pressure on the day is what matters.
Okay, I didn't know that. Thank you.
Okay.
I agree. Well, let me just ask a question.
Yes.
The nurses know that?
Well, that's the other thing, that I must say, Sally, it's all part of the organization of the system. And I must say it is very difficult to arrange a system that's not been separated from the user system. For example, in the developed countries, blood collection is a separate thing.
All right.
The staff is trained separately.
Okay, really?
There's a national blood transfusion service that is totally separate from the hospitals.
Okay, I didn't
which
know
use this
that.
blood, yeah. So there's no connection between the donors and the users.
Really?
People just donate to the service,
So
and
there's
the
a
service
service.
interacts with the
So if a
health
hospital
system.
needs blood, they will
Yes,
contact the service.
The service, that's right.
But in our system, they
It's
cannot-
linked.
It's linked.
It's linked.
Interesting.
Which is the
interesting.
root of the problems.
Interesting. Now, apart from the fact that we have Laventil on the line. Hello, good evening, Laventil. Hello?
No. Hello?
Hi, go ahead. Hello? Oh, I think that they got cut. Yeah, to the callers, please remember that once you're patched into the studio, take the volume off your TV because it gives us a feedback. I know Incheon has been very strict on that. So I think the last caller was cut because we were getting a feedback. Now, you also said there's a drive that's coming up, is there?
Yes, we're having another event on November 11th, and it's at the Blood Donor Center at Mount Hope. And so if, to make an appointment, our website is www.uwiblood. It's very straightforward. www.uwiblood. And one could visit the website and get the information.
And they can make an appointment?
November 11th, yes, one could make an appointment by the time and say yes, we have forms to be filled online and just book in. And the thing is, one just gives and one walks away. There's nothing in return except a smile and blessings.
Yeah. We have St. James on the line. Good night, St. James.
Yes, good night.
Hi, go ahead.
Yes, good night, doctor. I'm asking, please, what causes anemia?
What causes?
Anemia.
All right, thanks. We'll go through, there are many different causes, but Dr. Charles will go through the common things. Thanks very much.
Yes.
Let's cover them briefly again.
Yeah, so briefly, it's either a failure to make red cells, which have the protein hemoglobin in them, and that is usually due to a deficiency of iron. Could be deficiency of other things, for example, vitamin B12 or folate. It could be because of failure of the bone marrow itself, because of the other disease in the bone marrow, or it could be because of the body destroying the red cells that contain the hemoglobin for inherited reasons or for reasons that are not inherited. So there are quite a few reasons that require investigating to say which is which. But the most common cause of anemia is iron deficiency anemia.
So as Dr. Charles had indicated earlier, if you start to have these symptoms of weakness, tiredness, dry mouth, eating lots of ice, and then the doctor does a blood test and sees your blood count is low, that's anemia. And as he pointed out, there are many different causes of anemia. So now the doctor will have to analyze what is causing it. And as Dr. Charles said, the commonest thing is iron deficiency, but there can be other causes of anemia. And if it becomes a little bit more technical, then you will be referred to see the hematologist, and you may need to have further testing done. So anemia, iron deficiency anemia is very common, but there are many different types of anemia which are a little bit more complicated that specialists may need to look at. We have Maracas on the line. Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I just asked about the age limit for giving blood, and I didn't try to get the doctor's answer. I think he gave the reason, but I didn't hear him give the age.
Which individual is that?
And somebody asked a question about the age limit.
Age, yes, the age. Yes.
But I didn't hear the age. He gave the reason, but I didn't hear the age.
I do apologize. You're quite correct. The age limit for the National Blood Transfusion Service here is 65. It's between ages 18 and 65, as young as 17 if there's parental permission. And one could go beyond 65 if one is a regular blood donor and if one has a certificate of health from one's attending physician.
Is that, those things, those guidelines are international? That happens overseas?
No, roughly, because in some countries one could donate for as long as one is healthy enough to do so.
Really?
There's no age limit.
All right, so that's interesting.
Yeah, and in some countries it goes as low as 16.
All right. But 18 to 65 in Trinidad and Tobago?
Yes.
Paula Spain, you're on air.
Good night.
Good night.
I was just wondering, is cold hands and shortness of breath symptoms of anemia?
Good question. Kenneth?
They could be, but they could be symptoms of other things. So I would recommend that one visit, if it's you, ma'am, that you visit your doctor, because it could be symptoms of anemia. They could be symptoms of other things as well.
Right. Yes, so definitely. To that caller, if you or someone you know is having, and how in medicine we usually find out things is when any time a patient has anything, any new experience in their body, if they're getting a fever and they don't know why they're getting it, if they're getting cold hands and they don't know why they're getting it, if they're getting headaches and they don't know why they're getting it. So if anything changes in your life, you should find out, go to a doctor and find out why is this happening. So that's a general rule, I think everyone out there, to be aware of your body, aware when something changes, and you must be able to explain why it has changed. I saw we lost a caller there. Maracas on the line again. It's a different person. Hello, Maracas.
Good evening. There was a question I forgot. I didn't get to that.
Okay, all right, yes.
Juman, you just commented off the nurses know that. And I just wanted to comment favorably on a particular nurse at the Mountain Hospital, but at the Everett Williams Center. Her name is Nurse Indrani Bagan. I had to visit there recently, and what a wonderful person. What a pleasant person. I did not get to give the blood because I was going to myself, which I would also like the doctor address, but I couldn't because my surgery was upcoming and I couldn't give the blood and I couldn't find a donor. But this nurse, I saw her handling so many people single-handedly because they were short on that day. But she handled it very well. Kudos to her. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. It's always good to hear good news about the health service.
Thank you. I will let Nurse Bagan know. She'll be very pleased.
Yeah. And to reiterate what this lady is saying, lots of good things happen in healthcare in Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, there are things, adverse events that do happen, like everywhere else in the world, but to the public out there, lots of good things happen in healthcare in Trinidad and Tobago. We can be better. We have to aspire to be better, but I think a lot of you should understand that, yes, significantly, most of the time you go to hospital, you will get good care. Arima on the line. Hello, Arima.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
Good night, Dr. Solaiman, and your guest here.
Hi.
I want him to explain to me what is thalassemia.
Good question. Very good question. You can hang up the phone and listen on the TV now. Thanks very much. Thalassemia, Dr. Charles.
Yes, thalassemia is an inherited disease, and the problem lies in the body's ability to make this protein called hemoglobin that we spoke about. That also has iron in it. But it also has two chains that are called alpha chains and beta chains. So there are alpha chains, beta chains, and iron in the hemoglobin molecule. And if the body is short on any of those three, the body makes small, pale red cells. In the case of the thalassemias, if the problem is with making the beta chain, the body makes small, pale red cells that have an excess of alpha chains, because the beta chains and alpha chains are supposed to match and marry. And the excess of beta chains causes damage to the red cells. And that causes them to be destroyed when they're being made in the bone marrow. So they don't even survive to enter the circulation. So that causes very severe anemia in the child from about the age of 3 months old. And because the child is unable to make red cells, the body tries against all odds to make red cells. So the bone marrow expands, and there are facial abnormalities. The spleen expands in trying to make extra red cells, and the child gets wasted because all the child's energy and nutrients are consumed in trying to make blood, and the child looks like he or she has a malignancy. The critical thing is that the child requires blood transfusions to maintain life and to prevent the bone marrow from overworking and to prevent deformity and enlargement of the spleen. This requirement, because blood cells last only a short time after transfusion, is for transfusion at least every month. And so it's not an easy life, as you might imagine, having to have a blood transfusion every month from age 3 months to adulthood. And that is the story of thalassemia. And because of the blood transfusions and because of the constant anemia, they absorb an excessive amount of iron from the diet, because the body assumes that it is iron deficient. And in addition, all the blood that is infused in transfusions gets trapped in the body as well. So eventually the extra iron causes damage to organs in the body, the heart, liver, lungs, glands. So they require treatment to remove iron as well. So generally the management is blood transfusion and iron removal. And of late, it's been very topical bone marrow transplantation. If it is possible to find a compatible donor, meaning a full brother or sister with the same tissue type, to have a blood bone marrow transplant in a good center for doing it, the cure rate is very high, about 95%.
And where's the closest to Trinidad that can do that?
Well, there are close places that do it, but the center has to be very high caliber.
Okay, all right.
Because it's a very expensive undertaking.
All right. All right, so very good discourse on thalassemia, but this is sexism in thing, man. There's beta chains and no beta chains. Have you ever called up from Gasparilla? Hello, Gasparilla.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Welcome.
Thank you.
You go ahead.
Recently I went to donate blood, and and I was told, well, I was asked what I'm allergic to, and I told the nurse in charge that I was allergic to penicillin.
Right.
And she said I could not donate blood.
Okay. And that's all. How old are you?
Well, 60.
60. And you have any other medical problems?
Well, diabetes and high blood pressure, but it's under control.
Both
I
of them
don't
are
use
under
insulin.
control. All right, well, let's hear Dr. Charles's opinion on that. Thanks.
Allergy to penicillin is not a reason for deferring somebody, so
all right, so
I don't know why
that can't have been the reason. It's, as I said, it's not one of the recommendations. So sorry to hear that. Diego Martin on the line. Good night, Diego Martin.
Yeah, good night.
Hi, good night. Go ahead.
I would just like to find out, does restless leg syndrome have anything to do with iron deficiency?
What syndrome is that?
Restless leg syndrome.
Restless leg syndrome.
Yes.
Interesting question. Any, you know about restless leg syndrome, right?
I've read about it, but I don't know.
Well,
I'll have to check it.
Yeah,
probably
I'm not
does.
sure,
I'll have
but
to check. I'm not
I
sure.
think one of the things, the theories is about the circulation.
Yes.
More than just anemia, whether or not the circulation isn't adequate. But I know there's a lot of studies going on about what's the diagnosis and what are the critical issues and the treatment. But yeah, Dr. Charles will check that out first. St. Augustine, welcome, St. Augustine.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, good.
My question is, hello, good night.
We're not hearing clearly.
Good night, doctor. Can you hear me better now?
I'm not hearing you clearly. You can speak a little louder.
Good night, doctor. Are you hearing me now?
Right? Yeah, hearing now. Yes.
Okay. Yes, I had to shout.
Yeah.
The question is a quick question. Someone with people with tattoos, is it safe for them to give blood? I've heard that it's not safe. Is that true?
All right. Dr. Charles will answer that again. Thank you very much. Issue about tattoos and donating blood?
Yes. The concern about tattoos and donating blood is concern about the sterility of the needles used, because we can't assume that the needles were sterile. So the tattoo has to be managed on the outside chance that there was a problem with the needle. So therefore, one has to assume there was some potential exposure to one of the viruses that could be transmitted by needles. Those are typically HIV, a human immunodeficiency virus, hepatitis B, hepatitis C. Now, although we test the blood for all of them, it could take up to a year for some of the tests to show up as positive. So if somebody, by 1 year, if somebody is infected, the test will definitely be positive. So for that reason, after somebody has a tattoo, we defer them for a year before they're allowed to donate. And it's for the safety of the recipient.
So get that clear.
Yes.
If you
It's
have
for
a
a
tattoo
year.
today, you cannot give blood until a year from now.
Yes.
But as Dr. Charles said, some of these young people getting a tattoo every month.
Yeah.
So the
year keeps shifting.
So get that clear.
Yeah.
Hi, good night, Arima. Hello, Arima.
Yeah, hi. Doctor, I heard your explanation just now about thalassemia.
Yeah.
But I want to find out, but I am 72 years old.
Uh-huh.
And they diagnosed me and said it is hereditary, right? And I have a blood count of 10.8, but I have never gone through the blood count and blood transfusion and thing what your colleague said there.
Yeah, that's
so I want to find out if there are different types of thalassemia.
That's a good question. Very good question.
Right, blood count of 10.8, and I am 72.
All right, great. Dr. Charles was talking about one type. You want to tell us a little bit more?
Okay, thank you for your question, sir. Quite likely, if, because thalassemia is inherited in the DNA or the genes, if one inherits it from one parent, it is called thalassemia trait or thalassemia minor, and doesn't cause any problems except mild anemia, like the gentleman describes, but no illness. However, if it's beta thalassemia and inherited from two parents, that's when it causes problems.
And that's the thalassemia major.
Yes, which is why it is so important to investigate anybody who has small red cells and mild anemia to make sure, one, that they don't have iron deficiency anemia, because that could mean blood loss from a serious reason, or that they don't have beta thalassemia trait, which could mean they're at risk for passing it on to a child. So it's very important to investigate anemia thoroughly.
So that caller from Arima, yes, there are different types, and
yes.
you obviously probably had one of the minor types.
Yes, you got it from one parent.
But the
so
important thing, as Dr. Charles has said, is that you would have had the potential, if you were younger at this point, if you married someone who had another thalassemia trait, to give your child could have the major type. So that's part of the whole planning issue. San Fernando, hi, good night, San Fernando.
Hi, good night.
Hi, good night.
I'd like to ask, are there any benefits to the building up of the blood if one uses beet in one's diet?
Using beet?
Yeah, beet.
All right, good. Nice question. Beet.
Very good. That sounds like a young donor. It's very good to use beet. It's rich in iron, and especially with young women like yourself, because you're losing iron anyway by way of menstruation, and a unit of blood donated has a lot of iron in it. It is important to replenish the iron supplies, and could be done by a iron-rich diet like you're having. Beet is rich in iron, so it's a very good idea.
All right, good.
So there's a definite benefit.
So it's, instead of taking tablets, you take beets?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's providing you're not iron deficient to cause severe anemia. Huh?
All right.
But on a day-to-day basis, it's good to have an iron-rich diet.
All right, Twin City, good night. Hello, Twin City.
Yes, please.
Hi, go ahead.
Hello, good night, doctor.
Good night.
I'm calling to find out what is the cause of high blood platelets.
High blood platelets. Good.
Yes.
We've gone to another question.
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Hi, Dr. Charles would answer. Just listen on the TV now.
Okay, then.
Yes.
Okay,
There's some very intelligent callers,
Very,
Dr.
very,
Juman.
yes, you know. It's only intelligent people watch my show, man.
I don't know. Yes, very good question, ma'am. The platelets are some small cells that are made by the bone marrow and circulating in the blood. And their main reason for living is to plug small holes that arise in the blood vessels. So really they aid blood clotting. So if one gets an injury, the platelets travel to the injury and form a little blood clot there. So it follows that if the platelets are too high, there could be excessive clotting. And if they're too low, there could be bleeding. Platelets are increased in number for two main causes. One of them is as a reaction to something else, and that is very non-specific. Could be things as straightforward as an infection or iron deficiency or inflammation, in which case the platelet count could be increased, and that's a reaction. It's appropriate. But then it's still important to find out the reason why. If the platelets are elevated and it's not in response to something like that, it could be caused by a disorder of the bone marrow, in which case the bone marrow is just making excess platelets without being called upon to do so. And that could mean a fairly severe illness. So it could be a bone marrow problem when it's called a myeloproliferative neoplasm. It's a long word. That's one type, a bone marrow problem, or it may be a reaction to something else like iron deficiency or an infection or inflammation of any type.
So good question. But of course, once you have a high platelet, you should be talking to your doctor. They should find out why it is high. All right, Arima, our last caller for the night. Hello, Arima.
Yeah, could I ask the doctor how good is Astafa as a blood builder?
What is that?
Astafa.
Astafa.
Yes.
Astafa. All right. Yeah, if you listen on the TV now, thanks. Astafa. Ever heard about it?
I have.
It contains iron in it?
Yes, yeah. I find the ferrous sulfate most effective, and that's the only thing I prescribe.
Okay. So
Yeah.
stick to your ferrous sulfate and eat lots of fruits and vegetables and drink water so you don't get constipated. So, Dr. Charles, we've had a very exciting night. Lots of interesting questions. We touched the surface of hematology, and certainly we'll have to have you back for another round sometime in the future, man. So, do you have any final words to give our viewers there about hematology, blood transfusion?
Yes, and it's issue of national and regional importance, which is very near to my heart, as you know. And we'd like to see the end of the requirement for people requiring blood transfusions, because really they're the people in most need, people after accidents or pregnant women having a complicated delivery or accident victims or cancer patients. And it's not a nice thing to send relatives in that state of confusion and panic to find blood donors. So I think one of the greatest things we can do for our society and for all our people is to just establish the practice of just giving. Just give it, donate it, and it will influence practice and policy. If enough people just give it, and there's enough, it will put an end to the requirement to be sending people out at the darkest hour to hunt for blood.
Yeah, and certainly as one of the points that Dr. Charles is making, the issue of us as a society evolving to a point where we look after our fellow man and woman. Think about this. You can save a life if you give somebody a kidney. But if you give blood, just like any other organ, you can save many lives. How often can you give blood if you're healthy?
Yes, it's 3 times a year for a male and twice a year for a female.
So you can save many lives during the course of your lifetime. And that in itself is a civic-minded duty that each one of us should inculcate, not in ourselves only, but in our children, in our relatives, in our friends, that don't wait till somebody needs to get the blood, that just keep giving on a regular basis so that our society can evolve and develop into such a place whereby not only we will be good as a society, but our health service will evolve also because of that. Because you no longer having to wait for surgery because you can't get blood, and it's a much more efficient service. And as you know, within our health service, like everything else in Trinidad and Tobago, there are lots of inefficiencies. And we have to look to find our solutions for all of these things. So I commend Dr. Charles on the good fight, and I entreat that all of you out there certainly think about looking at being a voluntary donor. Go out to Dr. Charles's the drive that's going to be held on November 11th at the blood bank in Eric Williams Medical Sciences, and go onto the website. What's the website again, Kenneth?
You just put UWI blood. UWI blood is enough.
All right, so it's a UWI thing
blood.
with...
That's where we started.
So, Dr. Charles, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And keep up the good fight, and we shall meet on the golf course.
We will. Wednesday.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in to Doctor in the House. And you know, I like to end the show with giving you something to think about. And it's all, again, similar line to what we've been talking about. And this statement, quotation, came from the Reverend Martin Luther King, Jr. When evil men plot, good men must plan. When evil men shout ugly words of hatred, good men must commit themselves to the glories of love. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dr. Solaiman Juman, And on behalf of my technical panel inside and Dr. Kenneth Charles, we'd like to thank you for tuning in to Doctor in the House. It's been our pleasure, it's been our privilege to be in your homes, and I hope the information that we've given to you, you have found useful, and who knows, the life you save could be your own. Until we meet again in 1 week's time at 8 p.m. on Channel 8, I bid you good night and assalamu alaikum.